Okay.
Welcome everyone to the Philips Experience Design Virtual Talk. So excited to moderate this conversation today on the Academic Heart Center as part of Dutch Design Week. I'm Brenda Davis, architect and design strategist with Philips Experience Design, and I'm joined today by my colleagues Jos and Serge, designers of the Academic Heart Center. With the merger of two academic medical centers in the Netherlands and the need to build a new heart center, the Philips design team was brought in during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic to translate the client's vision into a concrete design. The design would not only meet the operational needs, but would inspire a new way of working and delivering care. Now we will watch a short video showcasing the Academic Heart Center design.
I don't hear the sound.
Okay, again, sorry for that.
No sound. Correct?
Last time, try this.
No sound. We'll do without sound.
Okay, back to Brenda.
So I hope you all have good imaginations, a little bit of technical difficulty with the sound, but amazing video, amazing project. When I first saw this project, I was so intrigued by the design decisions my brain kept generating, question after question. So for those of you in the audience who might be experiencing the same thing, feel free to type your questions into the Q&A and we'll be taking a look at those throughout the process. But to start, I've got a question. I'm super curious about the process that was used on the project. Designing for healthcare spaces, incredibly complex in itself. And then you're adding on top of that the complexity of bringing together what was once two very distinct organizations, with what I'm assuming are very different work cultures and models of care. So how in the world did you actually do this? And during the peak of the pandemic, what process did you use to engage? How did you bring alignment amongst the group in terms of design direction? Super curious about this.
Yeah, happy to answer this question, Brenda. And to start with the last remark about the pandemic. Indeed, this project started at let's say the heart of the pandemic, actually. That's not over, but at that moment was really at the top. And we were not able to visit the hospitals, neither the team there in the hospital. So we did 100% online via Miro. And it was one of our first times actually using at this scale our Miro tools and exploring them to co-create this whole center. And as you will understand, there are many people involved in these processes. So we interviewed people online, about 17 key stakeholders there, and we organized 3 innovation workshops there about the different, let's say, care flows that we have, ablation there, and TAVI, which is a replacement of the heart valve, and PCI, as you know, from the stents, to really how could we improve these care pathways. And I used there, in these workshops, each workshop participated 35 stakeholders directly giving their input to this co-creation program. And of course, after that, we had in total 8 weeks to develop the program, which is extremely short.
Yeah, very short.
Very short, because yeah, typically it takes 1 to 2 years if you want to involve the stakeholders. So I don't know if the Miro in this case was a miracle, or by chance that was really to explore that, but also it's due to the co-create, involving people directly, and also creating work streams to realize this concept. And there are 7 work streams to follow up on the new concepts we developed. So that was quite unique actually there. And to give you an impression about how this goes, if you want to redesign a care pathway, which really, you know, the first contact with the patient at home, and the referrals, and ending up at the hospital and back home. We use what we call this experience mapping tool, where we're really mapping out of this whole, let's say, care flow, what are the interactions there. And we brainstormed with the team online. And actually one of the benefits, by the way, was to do it online, that doctors that you need so well in these processes, they participated from the OR, sometimes in between procedures, just to join in their gear there. It was really, so actually the participation was much higher than average. So we looked at these flows, and they came up with all kinds of ideas. They literally put the post-its there. It was also new for them, but in the beginning there was some hesitation, but at a certain really they exploded in all kinds of ideas. Ideas like, for instance, they wanted to become a much more hospital environment, which is in ORs, very technical clinical environment. It's not per definition the case. They wanted to collaborate much better and create different spaces for that. Also to consult patients, to prepare them better in their environment. And of course, because they were an academic clinic, a hospital, they wanted to look at more complex casuistry and also integrate research and education in the whole environment. Yeah. So that was really interesting to really highlight these points during the development process. And Serge, as you are my architects in this project, there were some challenges also because it was an existing building. Please, can you share with us what your challenges were as an architect?
Sure, thanks, Jos. So, as you said, this was an existing building refurbishment where we had to create a new center, and quite compact, I might say. You know, this is roughly only about 3,000 square meters, where we managed to accommodate 8 cath labs and reserved space for potentially add one more in the future. That's a lot, as this is one of the largest centers of this kind in Europe, and it was very challenging to accommodate all the required functions in such a limited space. Also, I would like to bring to your attention the overall organization or arrangement of the cath labs is quite unique. As you can see, they are pulled apart and organized around staff collaboration course, but we'll go into this in more detail later. We also have a 12-chair radio lounge that enables same-day interventions and provides patients and families with a more comfortable experience. What else? We also have we accommodated the multifunctional perioperative holding area that is designed to provide maximum flexibility with 20 beds that can be used for both for preparation holding before the procedures, but also for recovery, post-procedure recovery. And finally, since this is academics research center, we had a multifunctional MRI, interventional MRI area that we'll also cover in more detail later. But so we can look at the flows now a little bit. Basically, when we are designing healthcare spaces, we have to pay special attention to internal circulation, or the flows as we refer to it. We have to ensure that we separate and optimize movement through the department by separating inpatient, outpatient, emergency, staff flows, as well as material logistics. You know, how do you bring all the materials into it? You do not want to see that. It should be behind the scenes. So idea is to enable the flows to coexist with minimum disruption and crossover. For example, patient going through a minimally invasive same-day procedure should not cross paths with a critically ill patient brought in from the emergency. Yeah. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a background and idea of on the challenges and you know, from planning perspective. Let's say.
Yeah, I search if you're an architect, then. If you see this planning, this stacking and blocking, as they typically call, and this flow, what is the specific challenge here? Because you know, you can put everything in place when you still don't have a flow. How do you manage that actually as an architect?
Well, that's where the complexity of the healthcare comes. To solve or to be able to work through such a complex set of requirements and to be able to satisfy all the requirements, but and to enable everything to work as it should work. You have to pay special attention to placement of functions. You have to arrange them in such a way that they are that everything is in the right place, because one thing that's not in the right place just throws everything, whole machine, let's say, they call it an engine. This is the engine of a house, of a hospital in a way, just stops working.
And I think, you know, part of the way to get the right stuff in the right place is to have the right people engaged. And I was looking at the different work streams that you had as part of the process and how you made sure that you had supplies and logistics engaged, because sometimes they're a forgotten piece and it's so instrumental for making a functional design. So What I thought was really interesting is that you kind of broke up the process into subgroups. And I think what that starts to do, it empowers the different people. And so when you get into transition and actual execution and opening of the space, you kind of have these built-in champions that develop the process and develop the design, so that all that great thinking doesn't go by the wayside once you're actually activating the space. So I thought that was a really interesting element in the design and in the process.
For sure, for sure.
Is there anything that you might have done differently now that you've kind of gone through the process in terms of, you know, engaging with the stakeholders and aligning on design? Any lessons learned there?
At the moment, well, the lessons learned also still needs to become, because the realization is, of course, the proof point. But I think we were not able to go on site and meet these people enough. And I must say, despite the fact that we managed it very well via Miro, healthcare is people business. So for next time, you need to go there and meet the people in person. We have only seen them in Teams. And we went there once to walk around when there was nobody there, and downtime of the OR to see what the spaces are they were talking about. But I would say, yeah, it's not a learning, but for next time, not fully online is never optimal in a healthcare environment. Serge, I don't know how you experienced that, but that was for me something that I missed. Really, I really missed that.
I'd say same here. As a consulting team, for markets consulting team, we are very much used to working directly with the end users, with doctors, nurses. We have to engage with patients. We have to understand these what the needs are of these people, and this has been just. It worked better than we expected, online format, but it's far from optimal. We like to be on the ground, as they would say.
Yeah, and also observe, right, that what people say is not always what they do, with all respect, but that's how people are. And that, yeah, it's always good to double check. Nevertheless, I you know, what we have created with the team is very happy. I don't want to anticipate too much yet, but on that, but I think we got good feedback, but still that for next time, yeah, we should go there again if that's possible. Yeah.
So I've got a number of questions coming in from the audience around the different stakeholders and the process. Did the different stakeholders, you know, have a full, robust complement of different types of healthcare professionals? I know that we touched on the supply chain logistics part, but you know, was it the full range from CEO to people boots on the ground? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, again, good question, because you in these complex environments, you easily overlook stakeholders. And what we also have learned, but we know this already, that typically the facility planning or the facility redesign and process is completely separate from how you organize your clinical workflow, because one is more conditional, you know, focused on the building, and the other one is much more focused on the process. Now, if you want to be, in our view, if you want to be successful in healthcare design, you need to bring them together, because people that, you know, design facilities are that's quite static, because you need to find a solution, but the process is very dynamic. So what we did during these Miro sessions, indeed, we involved, of course, the nurses on the ground. Also, they were close to the patients, so they could represent the patients. Then we have the head of departments needed to organize and planning the departments. Then we had the clinicians there, from the specialist, cardiologist. We even had, let's say, a young clinician isn't there, students there, researchers, and of course the people representing the facility department and the project office there. So they could engage about the motivation behind this concept. They could bring in the limitations of the building, what to do or what not to do, infrastructure, those kind of things. And of course, there was a special work group about supply chain management, because if you want to optimize your productivity in this department, you need to have a storage, but you need to make sure that the right stuff is in the storage and close to the ORs that, that need to be fed. We even had cabinets in there, and there was a different kind of cabinet where you get backfilling, so you don't need to walk into the cath lab. Even during procedures, you could do that. These kind of ideas you can only generate if you directly involve all the stakeholders. So yes, the answer is that all the stakeholders they thought were relevant, but we thought we needed, were there in the workshop. Yeah, so they all participated in it.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Lots of people are blown away with the pace of the project, the 8 weeks. And people are asking, like, ever do an 8-week project again? It seems very quickly, and, do you think that's feasible, or is that just kind of, a one-off for this particular project, or would you plan for an 8-week duration for a project at this scale in the future?
So, do you want to say something about that? Because
well, it's definitely possible to do. We have proved that it's possible to do within 8 weeks, but it was just a set of circumstances that made that push end of the year. Certain meetings that were coming up. But it's not optimal. Definitely, we more time we can take, better it is. But on the other hand, time is something that it seems that we never have. So we do encounter very fast-paced projects like this very often. And good thing about that we are healthcare focused team is that it's not the first time we have done it. So we are able to move at quite a fast pace.
Yeah, I think in addition to that, Serge, I think the request was also to create this North Star, more a concept. So what the most important thing is that you can go a little bit faster, because actually you try to create a memory of the future, right? Because these people are very busy. They don't have a picture of how their future environment could look like. And that's why we helped them creating that based on their own ideas. Yeah. And now it's in their mind. So when they see drawings, so they see the next steps, because a lot of needs to be done. This is only the first step in the project. They will recognize, okay, yeah, but this concept there, that's, they need to develop this further together. So the 8 week is not that they can start to build. Let me be clear about that. But it's a very clear vision, and it fits into the restrictions that they had in this building. So there's just some technically it's underbuilt, but it's a lot of things needs to be done still.
Thanks for that, Jos. There was a space that I saw in the video that I have some questions about. I noticed that there was a scene where there was a physician who was reclining in a chair, resting. And what it made me start to think about is how we're experiencing this global crisis related to healthcare staffing shortages. Yeah. And that's compounded by the fatigue that they've been experiencing with COVID-19. And so, there's been a lot of talk about patient-centric design, and I've started to hear and see this movement and refocusing to the staff experience. And so when I saw this space, I was like, okay, I want to know what this is. I want to know how this fits into the context of staff experience. So in the overall design and in the space, what were some of the thoughts and considerations related to staff experience, whether it be providing spaces for respite and recharge, or looking at the overall design, figuring out how to kind of unburden the staff and optimize their work, and leveraging the space as an opportunity to attract and retain employees.
You probably mean the power nap room that you're referring to,
that
right?
one.
As you can see in the screen now. I think this is quite an explicit feature. Of course, they didn't ask for the power nap room. That's what we made out of their need. But they were really in between procedures just to take a quick nap, not more than 20 minutes to re-energize for the next procedure. In their direct environment, because we all know we are facing quite some challenges when it comes to the staffing of these environments. You need highly specialized people. They're a few of them. So how do you create an environment at least the people can take care of themselves also a little bit? And there this idea come from. And we think, and we learned also, that these ideas only work if they are direct in the workflow, directly accessible from the workflow. If you place them outside the workflow, they need to go there and step out of the department and change their gear. It's less effective. So that's why we came up with this idea, the power nap room. In this environment, they can even make also a phone call there if they want with their family in between, but just to re-energize a little bit. And that's in general what we looked at into the well-being of staff, because they were merging two teams, very capable teams from two university hospitals. And one of their concerns was maybe people would go elsewhere because they need to change anyway. So there are many opportunities for them in this area. So that's also how we create an environment that also really supports the well-being of staff, really taking care of staff. And that we have many examples. Next to the power room, also this staffing lounge area, and it's directly connected to that OR environment, so they can easily go there, freely move around in their gear. They don't need to change. Of course, they need, when they go into the ORs, they need to scrub their hands, that kind of stuff, but that's already a major, so much more freedom to move, to socialize, to collaborate, to evaluate. And that's what we really build upon, creating these spaces very nearby, briefing sessions in between procedures, sitting together, and before they go to the OR area, and having everywhere screens available to share data, even before they go for the procedures. And even there are screens in this environment where they can see procedures running, and if there is a call that people are needed to support in these environments, they are directly connected. And again, it's important that it's in the direct environment. Also what we call these reporting, and there's a lot of reporting needs to be done, where we have also comfortable environments where they can sit and the acoustics are under control, and really review the data and do their reporting out in the same areas there. So the other one is, and Serge, your focus is very much on this OR environment. So please, can you elaborate a little bit on this and the collaboration here in this area? Serge, hello.
Unmute. So I have mentioned earlier that these collaboration course that we have placed. So what this Jos has just shown is in this staff area, staff lounge area. It's still connected to the main interventional areas. But at the same time, we felt that if this being an academic hospital, research hospital, that really has to enable collaboration and teaching at the much higher levels, that you have to be much even closer to the action than these collaboration spaces in the staff area. So what we have done, we have created, and I talked earlier about this, where we have pulled the CAT labs apart, and we have organized them in the groups of 4 around a collaboration course, and that's what you see here. And these collaboration courses are intended for staff to be able to follow, also for students when to follow the procedures that are going on next door. You have the screens. And with the vitals and with the video feed from a procedure room and everything. So this base really brings the idea of collaboration to where the action is. Also, these courses are quite unique because they are used to supply. For materials supply, so all the supplies which Jos mentioned earlier brought in, and they are so all the cath labs are supplied through these pass-through cabinets, which you see at the end of that wall, and these cabinets serve as that you basically load all the materials from the core, and so you can access them from the back, from a cath lab without a lot of disruption.
One thing that I really love is that you've provided a lot of choice for the staff. If they need to focus, they have a place to focus. If they need to collaborate, there's a zone where they can do that. Or if they need to just be by themselves and recharge and be away, they can do that. And I think one thing that you mentioned about integration, I think that's so important to have this space easily accessible. I did a number of post-occupancy evaluations of, the locations of these staff areas. And when they were directly connected to the spaces that they were working, there was a super high utilization. But when you start to make that remote from where they are day to day, they get completely unused. And, it becomes a great soft space for expansion of something else, but it doesn't provide the same access to the staff that having it like right where they work provides. So I think that's a really great design move to bring that to be integral into their work, so that they have the spaces that they need right at their fingertips. Another thing about this collaboration zone that looks super cool, like you have great line of sight. Those control rooms, they can get really congested, especially because this is an academic center. So you have the ability for people to watch procedures through those screens, and the openness is super inviting. You can see everyone through that corridor, and it looks like you're using furniture systems. So super flexible, designing for the future. You can change things out, move things around as you learn from the spaces. So I find that design move really intriguing. And it kind of leads me into another question that I have. So I'm based in the United States, and we're under incredible pressure to help reduce the cost of healthcare. And as architects and designers, we do play a role in that. What we design, it influences the cost of healthcare because there are capital costs associated with the project. And there's a lot of different design strategies you can take. You can, focus on designing the space to reduce cost of construction, being efficient in how we develop these projects, designs that support efficient workflows, life cycle costs, the list goes on and on. But on top of that, again, healthcare space is complicated. We must deliver these elevated experiences for the patients. And as we talked about before, we have to think about the staff as well. And yeah, they're healthcare spaces, so we have to support quality and we have to provide safe care as well. So not sure if you're experiencing the same level of pressure in the Netherlands, but if you are, how did you respond to these challenges in your design, in particular, some of the cost challenges?
Yeah, Brenda, actually we do in the Netherlands as well. Maybe the scales are different, and the infrastructures are different. And they always say in the Netherlands, you from every place in the Netherlands, you can take your bike to a hospital, your bicycle. Yeah, so that's not completely true. Somebody told me, but it means we have many hospitals in a smaller country. But we also have cost pressures now, and we learned also during the pandemic we need to do different things differently. The point is that what we start to learn more and more is that the whole organization of the design of healthcare needs to be different, because if good ideas come too late, and you already brought it in, Brenda, if you make these special well-being areas for the staff outside the OR and you design them there, they will never be used and they will seen as spaces that are inefficient. But if you start to think about during the design process, look for a holistic way, looking at the clinical performance, at productivity, operational, and of course we as Philips bring in technology and future technologies early in the play, but also the patient staff experience, and you find the right balance, then there is I would also say some kind of holistic view on cost, because you try to create win-win situations. If staff feels more comfortable or more under control, or they can take care of themselves, the productivity goes up. If you organize a department where you also try to find out how can you build it so you can easily adapt to future needs as well without interrupting the production too much, but really reprogram that. But these ideas you should not do as an afterthought. You should start in the beginning and think about how could you make these future scenarios. And of course, there is cost. This was also 3,000 square meter, an existing hospital with a given infrastructure. Yeah, you work within that, but we really, the department is not bigger, but that's the same size and with a high productivity. So you need to look in that way, okay, cost related to what the production that they do and the quality of the production as well. And the patient experience and staff experience. So that's the way we as designers can help developing scenarios and also do cost calculations in a different way and create these win-win-win situations in the future in healthcare solutions.
Awesome. And in terms of, building in flexibility, future-proofing the space, so that they can respond to changes in care delivery to safeguard, your client's assets, any measures that were put in place to respond to that. And I'm seeing this image on the screen of the radial lounge. Would love to hear more about that as well.
Yeah, maybe Serge, you can answer that question because you're closely involved. Yeah.
Sure. So, the radial lounge. Yes, indeed, we are looking at the radial lounge here, and so this is one good example of this win-win approach that Joost just described. The radial lounge enables you to have same-day procedures, which are much faster, and you can increase your productivity by not relying only on a holding area, but with the beds, but you have these radial lounges, which are basically the format is in the chair. It's much more comfortable, and so from efficiency point of view, yes, that increases efficiency, therefore it reduces the cost. But that's one win. Other win is that patients love it and their families love it. I don't know how many of you have had an experience of a procedure like this, or similar, but the holding areas are not, these clinical areas are not always the most comfortable, and people want to get out as soon as possible. And this enables you to do a lot of preparation and second stage recovery in much more comfortable home-like environment. And also what's very important is this is an environment, this is a space in radial lounge you can be accompanied by your family. So it's basically a win-win from every angle.
Yeah, it looks like it provides a lot of opportunities to kind of elevate the experience, and it is reminding me of some things that I'm starting to see in the emergency department. There's kind of this phrase of keep your vertical patients vertical, get them through the process faster. And, similar here, like if these patients don't need to be lying down, why are we making them lie down? And so I love the fact that you're providing an opportunity to respond to those needs. And, from a cost perspective, this looks like it takes up less space than what you'd have in a stretcher. Mm-hmm. And it looks like you can, have less space, create an environment that people actually want to be in and not be distracted by all this, medical equipment and people going through these large corridors. So I love this design move and kind of responding to those various needs of the various levels of acuity and patient types that would be in the space. In terms of, for those patients that do need to be horizontal, that are lying down in the stretcher, how was that designed, and what thoughts went into that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I missed that. a little bit.
Oh, for what we're showing right here, the multifunctional holding area. So
Yeah.
I just want to know a little bit more about the design of the space for patients who need to be in a stretcher, and kind of what the thoughts went behind
Right. Okay.
the design of this.
Okay, well, yeah, this is an example of what we have called a multifunctional holding area. We also look at this area also and that sounds very business or industry-like, but like the throughput time of patients. But to make a sustainable department, you really need to do the whole chain, not only, if the cardiologists prefer to look at the cath labs and all the features there, of course, because that's their working area, but of course their success is very much depending about the preparation of the patient and of course the caretaking after the procedure. So what we have done here is also create this multifunctional holding area where there's more critical patient area which are enclosed and more open areas with a central bay there where the staff, a minimal amount of staff, can keep the complete overview for all the people in preparation and coming back. Yeah, and also there to make beds where you could customize it. It's not visible in this picture, but people can prepare themselves, put their stuff into a rolling cabinet, and the rolling cabinet is parked, and they can, when the patients are in procedure, they can put other beds there, so they don't need to claim certain bays for patient during the procedure. So we look at all these, almost would say, logistic aspects also, but with respect for both the nurses keeping the overview of the procedures and the condition of the patient around them and providing the right care, up to the throughput time that the spaces are used in a very efficient way. And this is one of the examples of this here. The other one, and that is the and Serge, maybe you can elaborate a little bit on this, is that also the procedures now that they start to change over time. So you need to adapt to the latest technologies and insights as well, especially in an academic environment. And the interventional MRI is a beautiful example. Maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit, Serge, here.
Sure. So yes, in this case we have this being a academic hospital research center. They had a need they identified the need for interventional MRI. Just to give you the background, that's basically the standard cath lab combined with an MRI. And it's very important for the research, and but at the same time, when we looked at utilization of the MRI, we realized that it was very low. I mean, you simply do not have that many procedures of that kind that you can fully utilize the MRI. So said, okay, I mean, that's quite a bit of an investment to make for something just to sit for when you need it. So what we have done in this case, we have designed this area right at the beginning of the department, right next to the waiting area, so that MRI can be used as a regular diagnostic MRI during other times, and the cath lab can be used as a regular cath lab. But when you need to do interventional MRI procedure, then you're able to combine them. So that flexibility is a good example of how you can ensure that what you are investing assets that you're investing into are fully utilized.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so important in terms of driving up utilization. And I think that this is a really interesting approach so that you can leverage both spaces separately, or when you need to do a combined interventional MRI procedure, you have access to the space that you need. So I think that approach of separation but connectedness is really effective to make the investment, fully utilized. That's great. Love seeing, the Philips Experience Design Team approach to process and looking at patient experience, staff experience of all the different users of the space. So can you touch on, how is this approach different from, what a traditional architecture firm might do for a project?
I would say ask the architect.
Well,
okay. Oh, I guess that's me. I forgot for a second. Well, I do get a question, first of all, even as professionally as an architect, what I'm doing in Philips. So that's the first question that comes up, and I'm sure, Brenda, you have a similar experience in the US. Yeah. But to be clear, our core business is not architecture. Our core business is not planning. Our core business, our core focus is the healthcare. So we are focused on healthcare. So and as in order to do that, we have to work in a multidisciplinary team. So our teams, in comparison to, let's say, a typical architectural team that will consist of architects, maybe some interior designers and engineers, our teams are actually consist of architects, designers, clinical experts who are former nurses with 30 years, 40 years of experience, doctors, technology experts, and that sort of thing. So that's where the main difference lies. And it's worth mentioning that we actually work with architects quite often, and we collaborate. So our team should not be seen as a competition to architects, but rather as an add-on, because healthcare is complex. It has always been complex. Yeah. And it's becoming even more complex than it used to be. And it's just to tackle that complexity, we need all the brain power available. And so you can think of us as more of a add-on to the more traditional teams.
Yeah.
I think it's.
I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
I was just going to say, the way I kind of view it is like it's this connecting thread and this translator, like so that we can speak the architectural language, but we can also speak the operational language, so that when a doctor says I need X, Y, and Z, like we know what that means. We know what that means from an operational flow perspective. We know what that means from how that translates into a spatial design, so that we can take that and work directly with an architect who might have deep knowledge in how to execute on a project and provide that translation to them. So I definitely think one of the most powerful things about the Philips Experience Design Team is that we are very multidisciplinary, and we have kind of our finger on the pulse on technology and service blueprints and architecture, and kind of so we can become that connecting thread between all the disciplines. That's one thing that really fascinates me about kind of the work we do within our team.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, Brenda, I think we still need architect, because one of the unique capability is their capabilities in let's say a spatial organization. That's a very that is really important. But what we also see in healthcare, because of technology is driving a lot of changes and innovation there. So you need to be very close to skin with the user, understanding what they're doing every day, what they experience. And there, where I come into the play, my background's industrial design, so I'm working on a smaller scale, right? Not when I'm with Philips anymore, but it's more product level. But I moved away direction, okay, better understanding users and how to represent them during design process and involving them directly in the co-creation. Really take their ideas as a starting point and how to translate it into an effective design brief. So actually that's what we see more and more. We get earlier involved, even before equipment is bought, that they ask us what is our vision on the future of healthcare. Of course, we have as a Philips, as one of the industry leaders, a view on that, but also from there, how can we make it happen? And then you really need to look at what are the user needs from patients and staff, but also family, everything around, to make it sustainable over time. And that is something, and then working with architects and really in the building up in each other's strengths, but also healthcare planners, bioengineers. It's a very multidisciplinary team you're leading. So, and then designers, apparently, because I always say that tea people, they like to stick their nose in everything, but not too deep, right? But they bring people together, and with our co-creation, really make it work and create this win-win situation. I think that's one of the roles that the architect can take, representing the users. So, and particularly in healthcare, I hope I don't need to explain. It's people business on both sides. It will never be technology business. There will be robots, but there will be people on the table, and there will be people behind the robots. They are doctors, hopefully. But that's quite a challenge and exciting world to be in for me.
Yeah. And, one thing to just add is that I think, the world that we build is shaped by the questions that we ask. And depending on your background and your different experiences, you're going to ask different questions. And so having that diversity in your team with different skill sets, experiences, like you're going to get a better product because you're looking at things from different viewpoints and perspectives. So I think that's, really great that that's integral into how the projects at Philips experience design are developed, being sure that we're kind of looking at it from all different angles. So that's something that makes me very, very excited about our work. We're getting close to the end. So I got a question here that's a little more personal, like why healthcare spaces? Why design for this sector? What led you here? I know, Joost, you said you were in product design before. And what are you excited about the future in this realm?
Yeah, well, to make it a little bit more personal, I think as an industrial designer, I always have been interested in the end users and take them as a starting point. Next to, of course, creating nice looking products and those kind of things, but it really starts what it does with people. And I worked a long time for the lighting industry, Philips Lighting and other lighting companies, and looking at shops and offices, those kind of, and lighting can make a major difference, not only in the looks, but how you feel in that space. And via that way, I ended up in the healthcare environment where lighting is hardly used to make the difference and to support patients. Now it is a little bit more, and the quality of lighting is changing with LED technology, those kind of things. But that's why I see that, you create the conditions where people can feel very comfortable. And that drives me most of the time. And healthcare is, for me, one of the most rewarding areas because there's so much to do. You can help so much people. We're not doctors. Let me be very clear about that. We don't have doctors in our team. We have doctors that have been doctors, but we need them just to participate in process. But for the rest, all the conditions you can optimize for these people to be successful in and also to beat with the challenges, to deal with the challenges that they have. So for me, it's a really rewarding environment there because it's also, sooner or later, I hope not, but healthcare is one of the most important conditions, and for a healthy life. So, and it looks like we all probably will be, let's say, in contact with it sooner or later. Yeah.
Yep. Serge, what about you?
Well, to be honest, my career path to healthcare was somewhat accidental. In the beginning, when I was in design school, I had totally different interests, and as a matter of fact, my final master's thesis was on cemeteries. Designing cemeteries in urban environments in a parking garage, so very far from healthcare. But somehow I ended up in an architectural firm that focused on healthcare. That was one of the older healthcare firms in US. So that's how I started, you know, and immediately I kind of fell in love with it, and mostly with the complexity of the healthcare. You know, as a designer, you know, I had to expand my knowledge far beyond what I was taught in the design studio. And you know, what's amazing is that I still have to expand that knowledge. I still have to learn all the time. You know? And so that was kind of a initial attraction but over the years more I worked on it, you know, I have discovered an even more important inspiration, you know, and that's what Rios mentioned as well. It's actually people, you know, people we design for these spaces are at their most vulnerable time in their lives. And creating a meaningful spaces and solutions to help improve this experience gives our work a special meaning, and it fulfills us as the designers with a pride and joy that only doctors and nurses that we work with perhaps can relate to.
And I can definitely see that passion in the design that you both created for the Academic Heart Center. I don't think things like this get built or designed with passive people who don't really care about what the end product is. I think that this is really a result of your deep thought and caring for how care is delivered, and, you know, caring for those who are delivering that care to patients. So, you know, just want to say bravo for the incredible work that you did. You know, we're just up against the hour. So any last closing remarks that you want to make before we close out this session?
Well, yeah, I think the closing remark is, and that's this slide actually, and not to elaborate too much on it. Actually, and I think that's something counts for all of us, everybody probably who's designing, because things are getting more complex today. You need to really take a lot in consideration. And for this center, we try to be patient-centric, right? And we looked at the staff well-being to let them collaborate and make it future-proof. And I think that is, and maybe everybody in the call can translate it to their own practice, but it's great if you can make connections between these four elements in your practice, because it makes, at the end of the day, any system you work to, and this is healthcare focused, then more sustainable. If you only look at the technical part and making it flexible, you probably miss the part on the left, right? So, it's also the collaboration that brings us further. We all know that it's not a single job that one man can do, or one person can do. So, my last closing remark is, if you can find ways to and get opportunities to work on all these aspects and consolidate that in a concept like, for instance, the Academic Health Center, I think it feels great, and it's also a fantastic job to do for designers and our design team. Yeah, so yeah, that's what for us is very rewarding, Brenda. So.
Yeah, I could definitely tell. But I just want to say thank you so much, Yas. Thank you so much, Serge, for this amazing talk today. I had so much fun participating in this conversation. Just wanted to throw this out there. If you're in the Eindhoven area and you haven't made your way out to the Philips Museum yet, definitely recommend heading over before the Dutch Design Week exhibition closes on October 30th. It's something not to miss. So definitely recommend heading out there. Thank you all to the audience for joining us today, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining, everybody.